Hello, everyone, and welcome to my mini lesson on the 4 C's in social studies. My name is Patrick Hill, and I am a middle school history teacher or social studies teacher. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today's objective is to learn and apply the 4 C's in your social studies classroom to enhance learning, develop 21st century skills, promote active citizenship, improve problem solving, foster awareness, and encourage historical thinking. Now, it's important to note that this isn't just for a social studies classroom or my social studies classroom. This can be applied across the spectrum with regards to English, or if you're working with special needs students, um, any type of Title I students, this would be applicable for. And so the 4 C's are critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. Now, me personally, I believe that critical thinking is the most important piece, and from there we can foster an environment of collaboration, community, and creativity once we have the critical thinking aspect down. And so as I go through and I present this, you're going to kind of see how that plays out, how the creativity will then foster that collaboration community, and it will begin to build, and we'll get that creativity towards the end there. So let's take a closer look at critical thinking. So critical thinking is a vital skill to develop in your social studies classroom. And here are some reasons why. Now, this isn't an all-inclusive list. This is just some major points that I feel apply to me in my classroom. It's not to say that you might have a different perspective on what is important. So analyzing sources, so the ability to evaluate the reliability and inherent biases of historical documents, news articles, and other sources. So I always teach my students that it's very important to be open-minded and to seek out alternative views. Don't be afraid to get outside of your comfort zone. And so that involves you looking at sources that you wouldn't normally think of looking, going off the Google main page, using other repositories, etc. So that's very important. Understanding multiple perspectives, that gets into what I was just talking about as well. So don't be afraid to get outside that comfort zone. This helps students consider different viewpoints on historical events and social issues. Making informed decisions. So in critical thinking allows students to assess their primary source. So when I say primary source, oftentimes in my class I'll use the term evidence. It's also important for you to relate to your students that a primary source is always going to have an inherent biases, and it's their job as a junior historian themselves to try to figure that out, and that way it can help them make a better informed decision. Connecting past and present, students can establish links between historical events and current issues. So oftentimes we'll use a technique of chronological reasoning in my class, where we just build this timeline, and as we begin to research and we come across various events, we begin to plot them across that timeline. Next, developing media literacy. This helps students navigate and interpret the information available through digital resources. As I mentioned, get outside that comfort zone. I'm going to stress that quite a bit. Use as many sources as you can. Use alternate sources, compare the views, take a look at multiple perspectives, and then you create your own perspective. That's what's called a historical perspective. That is when you take, perspective A and perspective B, and maybe you don't agree with either, and you form your own opinion. That is your historical perspective. Encourage civic engagement. Critical thinking prepares students to be active, informed citizens, and that's something that all of us teachers want, is to create a better citizen, a better or more productive citizen in society, and that involves being able to think for oneself and not becoming reliant upon others to think for them or tell them how to think. And we have challenge preconceived thought. Challenge students to question their own biases and preconceptions about historical events and social issues. I mentioned that before. Again, this gets back to, once again, getting outside your comfort zone. All right, so one of the exercises that we're going to use here is going to be a research prompt. Okay, so imagine your 8th grade class is studying the Industrial Revolution, both in Europe and in the United States. And so instead of memorizing dates and inventions, and people, etc., um, it's ideal to present students with this complex scenario, as you can see here, this research prompt. So in this research prompt, we are asking the students that you're a politician in 1880s Pennsylvania. So we've isolated the United States and more specifically in Pennsylvania. The rapid industrialization has led to overcrowding, pollution, poor working conditions, and an aristocratic type of governance. I'm not saying this is an aristocracy, but this is where the well-to-do have the ability to influence policy, etc. And that's something that we would emphasize in the lecture as well. And so I'm asking the students how they would address these issues while balancing the economic benefits of industrialization. And so this is going to create a research project. We're going to normally I would use Flipgrid or Flip. However, they have removed a lot of the functionality of Flip, and I'm even having a hard time migrating some of my previous videos over to Teams. So initially, when I set out to do this project, I thought, okay, I'm going to use Flip. Unfortunately, it's not going to be an option, so I chose to use KiloEd. This is not a program that I've used before. However, I've seen another teacher, a 10th grade teacher, use this in a Socratic type of seminar. So I went ahead and created this writing prompt inside KiloEd there that we can see right here on the screen. Let me see if I can get my laser pointer to light that up right here. All right, so by clicking on that link, it'll take students to the actual writing prompt, and they'll see some pros and cons. They will then do some research, add some notes, add some pros and cons themselves, and other members inside their group will interact with them along the way. So for the sake of the rest of this presentation, as we go through the other 3 C's, the collaboration, communication, and creativity, we're going to assume that we are inside this project, and we're going to use those remaining C's and make it applicable to this project. Now, I can't actually click on this link from this video because it would actually just pauses the video itself. But I did take a screenshot and place that on my mini lesson Word document. Okay. All right, so this prompt asks students to analyze multiple perspectives, evaluate historical evidence and context, consider short-term versus long-term consequences. So that's something that the students will also find is historical events and still currently have an impact today. I always tell students, if you fail to learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I know we've all heard that as adults, but it's important that students or our youth understand this, right? Identify potential solutions and their effects. Draw parallels to modern political challenges. Okay, so it goes along with what I was just saying. Explore theories outside their comfort zone. There's that once again. And engage in civil discussion. All right, so this is going to create a debate-like atmosphere, similar to a Socratic seminar. All right, so collaboration. Collaboration social studies promotes engagement in real-life world scenarios, pushing students to participate within their group. This fosters time management skills and helping students gauge their own progress. Now, through our writing prompt, how collaboration works with our writing prompt is in the research phase. So group members will divide up topics like industry, politics, economy, and social issues, and then they'll begin to share their findings through an app like Flip. Now, Flip, like I said, the functionality is changing, so we had to switch this over. But if you're familiar with Flip, then you know what I'm talking about here. All right, content creation. So students create a daily video notes using or entry using KiloEdu. They will also use this information to create campaign posters and brochures. So this gets into the creative aspect a little bit later on. This can be rather entertaining if you think about creating a poster like something along the lines of a political cartoon or something along those lines, or if you're actually a politician or you're working in city planning during this period of time, you could create a political flyer or a pamphlet. that solicits your ideas to the people and so on. So this is a great option to include in the activity or in the creative aspect of this. All right, continuing on with collaboration. So peer review, individuals and groups exchange drafts on their own work with other groups for constructive feedback and fact checking. So we're going to encourage this dialogue. Of course, it needs to be constructive. We want to make sure that we keep a close eye and an ear listening to make sure that nothing is offensive. Presentation planning. Individuals within their assigned group decide how to integrate their individual work into a group presentation. Class presentation, students present their findings based on their assigned topic, and then they reflect on it there. So this is we're really going to push that teamwork and coming together and working out differences and possibly even coming up with different perspectives. Communication and social studies is not just about sharing information, but also about promoting activities like debates on historical events and issues. In the past, I've taught at a high school level, and I've used the Socratic seminar. The students really enjoy that. That communication, collaboration goes hand in hand, and then they come together and they write papers on them, with their discussion, and if they've changed their perspective, etc. So communication is big. Collaboration goes hand in hand here, and we're teaching people communication skills, social skills as well. So certain aspects of communication are active listening, negotiation as well, where students discuss with it, which information to highlight in their presentations. They work this out with students. Written communication, again, in conveying flipped diary entry. So again, this is going back to the idea of using flip. I am told that they are going to integrate this into Microsoft Teams, that Flip will actually be inside there. So this still may be applicable here relatively shortly. So whether it's Flip or Kiola, it doesn't matter. Visual communication, design brochures, posters, we talked about that. Public speaking, each student takes turns explaining their assigned topic during this final presentation. So that's key to understand as well, is that students will be required to come together, plan this out in the final presentation in which they're going to produce their creative design, whether it be brochures or posters, etc. But they're also going to speak on their topic, almost like they are a subject matter expert. Digital communication, students gain experience using digital communication platforms. Okay. By working together to explore these different perspectives on historical events, students learn the value of collaborating. They learn the value of communication and so on. So, and that all will benefit, or the payday, if you will come across on that project as well, whether that's in the final presentation or the brochure, etc. So specifically with communication, students get to practice a wide range of their communication skills, whether it's interpersonal communication or mass communication, etc. Creativity in social studies allows the student to connect with their uncovered research, put it on display. All right, so when given the freedom to explore topics with creative projects, students must self-direct their learning, choosing the focus area and presentation methods. This creative process can come across, like I said, in a brochure. This approach turns social studies into more of an interactive social experience, potentially strengthening the classroom relationship and creating a more cohesive learning community. So a couple of examples here, and this isn't exhaustive. This is just a couple of examples. So you have group collaboration, peer-to-peer. Oh, there's a typo there. I'll have to fix that. They learn from each other's research and creative ideas. And I'm a big fan of peer-to-peer. I use this a lot in my everyday classroom studies as we talk about lectures. I will give them exit tickets, and this is something that I will do throughout this process as well, or what I call micro quiz. A micro quiz, 3 to 5 questions. It's not a multiple choice. It's going to require a short answer. I will ask the table groups to work together and come up with an answer. So they discuss it and come up with a short answer for each of these. Okay, and their time, they have to do it under 10 minutes. Discussion springboards. Creativity can spark interesting class discussion. So I'm sure we've all seen that happen as well. All right, so some of our primary takeaways, these skills developed through the 4Cs can extend beyond social studies. So as I mentioned before, this can be used in science and English. I don't think this would work too well with mathematics. Um, I have taught math, and I don't really see how I could implement this in a math class. But again, I'm thinking from a historical mindset. So it benefits also the student's social and personal growth, and that's key as well. So again, this is about creating that good citizen, if you will. All right. And also, some of the takeaways here are some of the social studies standards for the state of Arizona here. This is not exhaustive, but here's 4 different standards that we hope to knock out or achieve by the end of this lesson. All right, so here's a sample political poster. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Um, this is a Mark Twain, the Gilded Age. Mark Twain is the one that coined that term, the Gilded Age. But this takes place during the latter parts of the industrial age in the United States. So I just put that in there as an example for students that they could I asked them to take a look at this and say, what does the author convey and who's the intended audience, et cetera. And so they look at these as captains of industry and so on. But nevertheless, this is just an example of that. All right, so that's the references. So I thank you for your time. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I know I went over by about a minute and a half. But thank you so much, and have yourself a wonderful weekend.